ngayon, matuto tayo magtipid. Para sa kinabukasan natin, presenting you investment guide for every stage of life. Agnosado Magastos. Ikaw, kabayan, nakapagtipid ka na ba?
Yung nasa piggy bank lang, sir.
Tama yan. Pero madami tayo pag-aaral. Simulan natin sa pagpayaman, siyempre dapat team payaman tayo.
Ganyan ba?
Yes. Ganito ang dapat need para magpayaman, simula sa savings account.
Planner, do you know of more people wanting to learn how to save properly? More clients?
The good news is in the last 3 or 4 years, there's been a renewed interest on personal finance and financial management. You see more, there's shows and there's columns, there's a lot of books, there's a lot of internet blogs. So there's a renewed interest for it. I think more than ever, the interest is very high. That can be attributed to there's more money now. More people are more interested. As to how it translates to actual savings and retirement, that's another question.
Right. So the problem now is a lot of people have maybe some excess funds.
Yeah.
How do they go about saving those funds? For some people, it's going to be, or for a lot, it's going to be discipline, right?
Yes.
A lot of people, when they have excess funds, parang gusto kong bilhin niya.
Oh yeah, that's always going to be the struggle. That's why you see this increased consumption also. Because of the increased income, there's increased consumption. That's why don't you ever notice there's like a lot of malls, a lot of these stores, a lot of these new products going out, even online, no? Pinoys are more online now. So you see also there's this renewed tendency, because that's the psychology of us. We want to be able to, when we get money, you want to be able to enjoy it. So that's where the financial management now is a challenge. Because what we're trying to teach you is deferred consumption.
Deferred consumption.
Yeah, investment is all about in deferred consumption. I'm going to consume it, but not now. I'll consume some today, but some in the future. But that's where the challenge is.
Okay, what tips can you give us? As we were talking about it, there are more venues now to spend. There are more, there are more
venues
temptation to spend.
save.
Yes,
well,
but
I guess
how do you start?
It goes back to money management. It goes back to cash flow. It goes back to how much money do you actually need and how much money should you be saving for the future. So, corny for a lot of people, but it's budgeting. You still go back to the basics of money management. That I have a budget. I have a budget for spending, I have a budget for saving, and I make sure that I'm going to stick to those budgets.
And we talked about this years ago when I first talked to you here in Mornings. When you talk about basics, it may be tedious, but it still would be advisable to start with the list, writing it down.
Yeah, putting it down. It doesn't have to be tedious. You know, a lot of people just do it in a piece of paper, or some people know it's in an envelope. You know, it doesn't have to be an Excel file or an app, no? But it can be anything. So what we need to do is just need to understand where your money goes. I've spoken to a lot of people. They don't even know how much they spend in a single month. They'll give me a ballpark figure. That's a big swing until we start to sit down and showing them how much they actually pay.
Right.
So listing down helps. Being aware. You would know how much money you spend on electricity, on water, on a monthly basis, right? So you just want to make sure that those things are taken care of first. Yeah.
And sometimes that's the priority. You
priority,
take out your
needs
payment
versus
for
wants.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Take your needs first. Prioritize your needs. Set aside for future needs like education. You know, like when your kids, you pay twice a year for education. It's not on a monthly basis, so you must be able to start to accumulate for those things.
Okay, we'll talk about investing later, but are there any financial instruments that will help you save? Well, there was before the time deposit, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of people are saying it's not that advisable anymore. It doesn't really earn. It just keeps your money dormant. Parang forced savings ang ilagay mo lang sa piggy bank na hindi gagalaw.
Yeah.
Is it still advisable to have something like a time deposit where you can just put your savings for future use?
Time deposits do well. Low risk instruments, they do well for short-term needs. Let's say I just need money for education in 6 months, or I have to buy something in 8 months. So less than a year, you want to put in short-term instruments because the chances are it's not going to go up, it's not going to go down. You're not after making the money grow. You're just after to making money secure and earn a little bit while waiting. So that's what you call short-term funds.
And can you give us a figure on what a little bit is, earning a little bit is?
Time deposits will give you somewhere between 1 to 1.5%. SDAs, or special deposit accounts of the central bank, will give you somewhere 2.5 to 2.8% on net interest.
But you always
30 days.
You always know that it's really not going to earn because it's still lower than
they're always going to
inflation
be
rate.
earning less than inflation.
Right.
So they're not investment instruments for long term.
So parang talagang piggy bank lang.
It's really
Dito lang to. You're advising them that if you're going to use it in the next 6 months, ayaw mo lang galawin, ayaw mo lang
That's where you
matempt na
put it.
galawin, keep it there, keep it locked.
The term
there.
we use there is warehousing.
Warehousing.
Warehouse it lang.
Okay, punta na tayo sa investing, punta tayo doon sa long term. If
Yeah.
you are saving up for maybe a kid's education for college education, where do you put your money? For safety first.
Okay. What we try to encourage people is to diversify their investment or create what you call a portfolio. When you say a portfolio, I have some that are major risky, some that are safe. It averages out my risk. One of the biggest mistake of many Filipinos is they keep their long-term investments in short-term instruments like time deposit and SDA, wherein your money doesn't really grow. Let's say education, not to scare you, Ron. Education inflation is somewhere between 8 to 12% year in, year out. And if your money is going to earn at 3%, you're never going to save enough money for education.
That's right.
You need to look for instruments that can give you more or less better yield than that. But that also will mean that you have to take in more risk in your investment.
That's right. So when you're talking to financial agencies, they're going to tell you about the different
different kinds,
different instruments that have different kinds of risks at the same time, different kinds of
tenors.
And then the amount you're going to earn.
So basically, what we always recommend is come up with a portfolio. Let's say 70% safe, 30% a little bit aggressive.
Okay.
That brings you back to a more balanced view of your investment.
Let's talk about the funds. If we're going to go to mutual funds and any kind of instrument,
Or your ETF,
there will be first the low risk,
low risk,
low returns.
low returns.
Okay, and then the second one would be
the moderate risks, moderate returns, and the aggressive ones with high returns.
high returns but
risk,
high risk. Yung high risk na doon, you may get high returns, but depending on
You might also lose money.
you might also lose money.
Investments are normally limited to either a debt or an equity. When you say a debt, you're lending money. So most of the investments that are around here in the country, or most Filipinos that they get into, are debt forms. Savings, time deposits, SDAs, treasuries, government securities. They're all forms of debt. These are relatively low risk. Low risk yan.
Right.
There's guarantees, especially if you're investing in a government security, bonds and everything. That's very, that's zero risk because they can just print money and they get pay you back. Or these large conglomerates will borrow money, Ayala, Globe, PLDT. You're pretty sure that when the amount is, you're going to get paid.
You're going to get paid, but the return may not be that high.
Yeah, but that also means that your money is not earning that much.
Right.
So the question is, what would be your target return also? So that's when you have to start to diversify and allocate and start to come up and think of other things.
Okay,
So-
diversification. We have the low risk, low returns, medium, and the high.
The high risk are usually businesses,
Right.
Equities, the stock market, or some people even say some real estates can be on the high risk side depending on what the project is. No, so and there's nothing wrong with that because you need those kinds of investments for your money to grow.
What would be the advisable ratio? Kung magkano lalagay mo doon sa low, magkano lalagay mo sa medium, magkano lalagay mo
Ron,
sa
some people have personalities, risk profiles.
Right.
Your risk profile may be depends on who you are,
Dependent on
how
the person.
old you are. Young people, I suggest them to be a little bit more aggressive because if they lose their money, they still have time to recover. But
Yun yung pinag-uusapan natin, medyo hindi natin naisip na mas maaga.
actually, di ba? The thing is, even if I did aggressive stuff and I lost, okay lang kasi I lost it anyway.
That's right.
I don't even know where it
That's
went.
right.
So, that's the idea for them. But somebody like us, we're probably in the middle road already. With not too much of here.
We're a bit conservative now because we have dependents. We have kids, we have families, so we're planning for
But the pressure
future.
is, the more reason we need to start to save and invest for them because, they're going to go to college,
Right.
going to worry about retirement and all these things. So again, you can't take the slow, the safe road also because your money's not going to grow. So that's the case. And then some people are really just conservative. When you're older, stick to those that are really not risky because they don't have much. It's too dangerous for you to them.
So it's really going to be dependent on a person. It's not going to be.
No.
There's not going to be a general ratio for ito 70, ito 20, ito 10. It depends on
the
how old
person,
you are, how
yeah.
aggressive you are, the returns that you want,
And the need.
and the need.
The need.
That's right.
Kasi objectives yan eh. Like, for instance, I tell a lot of people, I just, I need to prepare for educational funds of my kids. And that the interest, the growth of education is somewhere between 8 to 12%.
Right.
That brings you to a higher risk investment. So, you're necessitated by circumstances to invest in something that's more risky in the long run. The good thing about risky investment is if you have a long-term tenor, it's better because you kind of weighed out the risk. Kasi, markets will go down, but markets go up also. So if I'm going to wait for 15 years, you can be sure that in the 15 years, market would have gone up and down, and at the end, you would have been, up pa rin.
Historically,
Technically, fundamentally, that's how it works. So you have a longer tenor, you can be a little bit more aggressive also. So all you have to do is wait. If the markets go down, just wait.
Don't panic.
Don't panic. They call paper loss. No? So just wait, and then it recovers. We've seen that recovering. We've recovered. Remember 2008?
Right.
I mean, amazing.
Look where we are now.
recovery, and right now it's so far from where we are.
If you lost money in 2008, you might be earning some of it now, and maybe getting a little more.
I remember investing money like 2 months before the subprime crisis. So somewhere in the
Yes, I know.
So
A lot of people did that also.
talaga,
Right.
But since I knew that my objective, the money that I invested is for my kids' future, and my kids are still at that time very young, high school. So sabi nila, anyway, my intention was to give the money to them when they're starting to work. So that gave me like a 10-year window. So even if I lost a lot of money, paper loss at that one, there's a temptation to pull it out and be safe, no? I kept it there, and I'm happy that I kept it there, and it's still there up to now. Why? Because I don't need the money yet. I'm gonna get the money when they start to work.
It's like invest and forget.
Yeah.
If you have extra money that you can live without, you have your operational expenses for your family, and you have extra na wag mong gagastusin, lagay mo lang doon and then forget about it. 10 years from now, you look at it, you're gonna be surprised.
That's for passive investors like us, that's a good idea.
Yes.
Of course, some people do it very aggressively.
Right.
But I'm more on the passive side. I've done that in the past. No, I've invested in money where I just left it there, and surprisingly, it's good. And some analysts will tell me you could have done better. No, but I'm okay with that. That meets my objective. That meets my risk profile, and that's convenient for me.
And I'm thinking there would be a lot more people who would be passive.
Yeah.
Who would want other offices, other companies handling their money instead of really checking the market.
That's why the stock market will have limited number of people enrolled in it. Because people don't go. Even you and I were talking earlier, I don't have the time to look at it all the time. A little bit, and it kind of ruins my day sometimes.
Lalo na pagbababa.
And in the middle of something busy, you have to check. The internet, everything, you can check easily. But that's why there are institutions that can do that for you. It's called pooled funds.
Let's talk about instruments. There you go, pooled funds. Would that be the best way to go? Pooled funds. We talk about ITFs, mutual funds.
UITF, yeah. UITF mutual funds. They're good for people who are busy, people who don't have the technical expertise, the competency, and don't mind paying the fund management fees, no? Because there are fund management fees for that. It's very good for people who have, don't have much time, just have to set aside money, and it kind of works well. Returns have been good in the last 5 years. If you look at all of these things, which I actually put it in my website, I show them all these returns and everything, and they've been pretty good. They've been ahead of most of these benchmarks and everything. That makes us, let's say that if you keep your money and you don't, ang ayaw natin yung malikot. I'll go out, I'll pull out, and I'll put it back. That's aggressive investments, and that can work for you, but that's also riskier. So I'll just leave it there and go back for it maybe 3-5 years. I tell people if you're willing to wait 3 to 5 years, then pooled funds will be good for you.
Okay, Randell, you're a registered financial planner.
Yes.
When should a person consult a registered financial planner?
Well,
when is it advisable to get
depends on the age,
professional help?
no? Number one, you don't always have to see a financial planner. You can do it yourself. You can learn. It's not rocket science. Learn, read. There's so much information out there in the websites, in the newspaper, columns. It's even a TV show here in ANC for that, no? So you just have to exert a little effort for that. But if you feel that you're not confident enough or you don't have time to study and everything, you might want to consult a financial planner. So what they're going to do is that give a financial plan for you, look at what's best for you, and they give you an objective view. Sometimes when you're looking at things, you're too subjective.
Right.
So an objective person will say, I think you're spending too much on this one. This is too risky
And
for you.
sometimes when you're doing your budgeting or doing you're lining up all the expenses, kuminsan nagiging conservative. Hindi naman yata ganito yung ginagastos.
You fool yourself.
So niloloko mo yung sarili mo, nililiitan mo.
Tsaka one of the things also, when you're starting to choose financial products, when you just rely on the brokers, the agents, you're not getting an objective perspective. Of course, they're pushing it because that's their product. No? A financial planner, an independent one, will be best for you because this is kind of expensive for you. The fees are not too good. They'll give you those options. It gives you a third-party objective view.
Right. Yung mga fees ba standard lang din doon sa
Depends
mga
on who
different
the
agencies?
financial planner is. Depends on who the client is. Depends on how difficult the case is. Depends.
Okay, Randell, you have a blog?
They can visit me at www.randelltiongson.com, or they can also ask me Twitter. They follow me Twitter and Facebook. For you to find your worth in money, that's kind of sad. You have to find your deeper purpose in life, and money is just a tool. It's not the end. So be careful. So money should always be. There's just a saying that money is a great maximizer. It maximizes the good in you.
There you go.
Or it maximizes the bad in you. So it's a tool. Just don't look at it as your worth. It's not the end goal. It's just a tool. So make sure that you know your purpose in life.
Deferred consumption.
Yeah, investment is all about deferred consumption. I'm going to consume it, but not now. I'll consume some today, but some in the future. But that's where the challenge is.
Okay, what tips can you give us? As we were talking about it, there are more venues now to spend. There are more, there are more temptation to spend. Yes,
what I guess how do you start?
It goes back to money management. It goes back to cash flow. It goes back to how much money do you actually need and how much money should you be saving for the future. So, corny for a lot of people, but it's budgeting. You still go back to the basics of money management. I have a budget. I have a budget for spending. I have a budget for saving, and I make sure that I'm going to stick to those budgets.
And we talked about this years ago when I first talked to you here in Mornings.
One of the biggest mistakes of many Filipinos is they keep their long-term investments in short-term instruments like time deposit and SDA, wherein your money doesn't really grow. Let's say education, not to scare you, Ron. Education inflation is somewhere between 8 to 12% year in, year out. And if your money is going to earn at 3%, you're never going to save enough money for education.
That's right.
You need to look for instruments that can give you more or less better yield than that. But that also will mean that you have to take in more risk in your investment.
That's right. So when you're talking to financial agencies, they're going to tell you about the different different instruments that have different kinds of risks at the same time different kinds of
Tenors.
and then the amount you're going to earn.
So
basically, what we always recommend is come up with a portfolio, let's say 70% safe, 30% a little bit aggressive.
Okay.
That brings you back to a more balanced view of your investment.
Let's talk about the funds. If you're going to go to mutual funds and any kind of instrument.
Or your ITF.
There will be, first, the low risk